Am I the asshole for not letting my stepdaughter in the kitchen when I'm cooking? My stepdaughter is 10. I've been in her life for 8 years and we have full custody. She sees her mama once every other week. I also have 2 sons, aged 11 and 9. For the past 6 months or so my stepdaughter will stand right directly behind me whenever I'm cooking anything. She doesn't want to help me cook. I've asked and she said no because she's afraid of getting burnt. She just stands directly behind or beside me close enough that we are touching whenever I'm cooking, and it's incredibly frustrating. Our kitchen is small as it is, so I have no room to move. I started telling her to stay out of the kitchen when I'm cooking because I need space, and I'm becoming frustrated from either dropping things constantly because I'm tripping over her or constantly having to ask her to move out of the way. Ever since I started telling her to stay out of the kitchen when I'm cooking, she has been making excuses to be in there. Like getting a drink every 5 minutes or wanting to color at the counter versus having her own huge desk in her bedroom, or even using the office desk in the living room. If she wanted to learn to cook and help me, that would be one thing. I would be more than willing to teach her. But as I said, she's refused and doesn't want to help me. She just insists on standing right on my heels and watching what I'm doing. Can't even express how many times I have almost burnt her and have burnt myself because of this. So yesterday she came in after I told her not to, and I didn't hear her come in. She was standing right behind me. I went to turn to strain noodles and bumped into her and got boiling water all down my front and all over the floor. I did yell and tell her to get out now. She ran to her room crying. My husband immediately started berating me for hurting her feelings, simply because she's fucking curious. I explained to him the same shit I have a million times before. She is not to be in the kitchen anymore when I'm cooking because I'm exhausted from constantly tripping over her when she has zero intentions to help or learn. I explained that because of her I just burnt the fuck out of myself, and he just completely ignored it and said I'm the one in the wrong because of her feelings. Am I the asshole? And yes, I've spoken to her several times after I've been burned in the past. She just says, sorry, and continues to do it. Not the asshole that water could have ended up over her, and I bet your husband would have blamed you for that. She's old enough to understand she could get hurt. PR has proven you can. Let him do the cooking and see how he reacts when she does it to him. Not the asshole. That is extremely dangerous and frankly very irresponsible of your husband. She's 10 and plenty old enough to not risk injuring or getting herself injured due to cooking accidents. She needs to be not behind or underfoot. If he won't correct her, then he needs to do the cooking. Not the asshole. If she doesn't want to help cook, she shouldn't be in the kitchen. I'd sit her down and have a conversation about why she is scared of being burnt, and then tell her how you've been burnt because she's in the kitchen and you're avoiding burning her. Maybe ask if she wants to be involved in the prep. Info. When you asked her why is she in the kitchen with you all the time, what was her response if it's not to learn to cook? Am I the asshole for not giving my newly engaged cousin my grandmother's engagement ring? So my 22 female cousin, Becky, 22 female, got engaged over New Year's. When Becky's fiancé asked my uncle's permission, my uncle offered my grandma's engagement ring. She died when we're 3, because he thought that he had the ring. The ring had already passed through 2 generations to get to my grandmother, so he wanted to continue the tradition. The ring wasn't willed to anyone, nor did she verbally say who she wanted the rings to go to, as far as I'm aware. But my uncle thought that he had it because he was the oldest brother. Anyway, it turns out that after my grandma died, in the process of clearing out her flat and stuff, my dad ended up with her engagement ring and wedding band. Over COVID lockdowns we were having a clear out to see what we could donate to charity shops, and we found the rings with some of my grandma's other stuff in the attic. I asked my dad if he could have the engagement ring because I think it's pretty, emerald and diamond. I paid to have the ring cleaned, re-plated, and have the settings checked. I now wear the ring fairly regularly because since starting my career after uni I've started to wear more jewelry because I think it's a simple way of looking more put together and polished. My uncle, aunt and cousin, we're both only children, have been hunting around their house for the ring since late October, and Becky's fiancé proposed with some costume jewelry. My parents and I didn't know about any of this at the time. Over the weekend Becky had her engagement party. I wore the ring not thinking much of it because it went with what I was wearing, green velvet jumpsuit. Of course Becky and my uncle recognized the ring right away, accusing my dad of stealing from under them when my grandma died. He was there first and my parents did the majority of the packing cause she lived closer to us, and accusing me of wearing it just to spite them and telling me that I ruined the evening and demanding that I give the ring over. I told them I didn't know they were looking for the ring, and if they had mentioned it to me or my parents we could have told them I had the ring. I don't want to give her the ring because I consider it my ring. It ended up with my dad and he gave it to me. I paid for it to be resized, cleaned, re-plated, settings fixed. It's my favorite, most worn piece of jewelry. Because I like how it looks and the sentimental value of it being my grandma's, because I don't really remember her, so it helps me feel connected to her. And my grandma expressed no preference to who the ring went to. They argue that Becky should get the ring because she's the daughter of the eldest son. My aunt is the only girl and currently has no children or plans to get married. And Becky got engaged first, so she should get the ring for that. Not the asshole. If he didn't know he didn't have the ring for 19 years, he doesn't deserve the heirloom. And not mentioning the missing item to his own brother, shows his narcissism of being eldest. Finally, no will? Finders keepers sister. Keep wearing it in good faith. Not the asshole. You're a relative. The ring came to you legally and you've spent money on it. It's yours now. They need to get over it and get their own ring. Not the asshole. There was no will. Your dad was more involved, and being the oldest doesn't entitle you to anything unless you belong to the royal family. Just so you know, families do break up over this stuff. I'm not saying you should give the ring to them, but you should be prepared. Everyone has an equal claim on the ring as it is. Finders keepers is not appropriate. Demanding the ring is also not appropriate. This really should have been discussed with the family when it was found. Am I the asshole for refusing to carpool with my coworker? Me, 22M, and my coworker Jack, 23M, live relatively close to one another, about 2 blocks apart from one another, and we work the same hours and his house is directly on commute, so when we realized this it was a no-brainer for us to carpool. Jack used to take public transit and I used to be stuck in traffic on the QEW, local highway that's notoriously slow. So being able to take the HOV and cruise into work cut my commute time in half. It was a win-win. The problem, Jack smells awful. Like not just like a little beau after a workout, but like fucking rank rotting onions. At work it's tolerable, but sitting in a car for almost 40 minutes a day is just unbearable. And the smell lingers for long after he's gone, so my car just permanently smells abysmal. So after about 2 weeks of commuting together I had enough. I decided that I should probably just be honest with him about the reason, and told him that the body odor was becoming unpleasant for me and that I didn't want to carpool anymore. He got really upset, telling me that it was unfair for me to just decide out of the blue to double his commute time and make him pay for public transit. When I talked to my girlfriend, she said I should have at least asked him to shower or something before just refusing to drive together, but previous complaints have been made in the office and he didn't change his behavior, so I assumed there was no point here. I genuinely feel awful and I don't know if I'm the asshole here. Any thoughts? Not the asshole. This is a tough situation, but I think you honestly might have done this guy a favor in the long run by being honest. He's gotta know that his hygiene is going to cause major problems in life. Better to learn the lesson like this than something way higher stakes. Not the asshole. If several people already told him his hygiene sucks and he still isn't willing to change anything, then this is fully on him. Not the asshole. The only compromise you could have made would have been to give him a little bit of notice so he can adjust his plans. But smells are just such a big deal, I don't know if it would have been fair to you. If you can't stand the smell, you don't have to carpool. Hell, you never have to carpool with anyone. Am I the asshole for not giving money to a relative even though my dad promised it to them? My dad migrated to my home country, Country B, when he married my mom. His extended family in his home country, Country A, are not well off. He has supported them all his life. His paternal aunt's granddaughter is getting married this month. My dad's aunt rang him and basically guilt-tripped him into agreeing to send them money, because they have 1,200 guests for the wedding. In Country A's local currency they have asked for $500K, which honestly is what a fancy middle-class wedding would cost. Dad agreed to send them half of what they asked for. However, at the moment he doesn't have enough in his sole bank account in Country A, so he sent me a message to say he would be taking it out of our joint account and he would replace the money. I live in Country C, which has a closer time zone to Country A than where my parents live, and I called the bank while Dad would still be asleep and told them to block the transfer and that I don't give permission for it. These people have been leeches on my family for my whole life, and I'm not going to give them that much money to just blow on one event only for them to complain the next month that they can't afford electricity or food. Dad has now found out I blocked the transfer and is furious with me for going behind his back even though he told me that he hates the entitlement of his family. My great aunt is also now complaining about me and Dad to anyone who will listen. Am I the asshole? Good for you for stopping elderly abuse. That's insane. They need to grow up and have a cheaper wedding. That could buy a house. Not the asshole. Not the asshole since it is your joint account, you should have a say with what money comes out. However, the better thing to have done would have been to communicate that with your dad when he mentioned it to you. Not the asshole. Stand firm. How dare he promise money he doesn't have and then inform, not ask, you he's going to take it. Why is it a joint account with him? You need to revoke his access and let him come up with the money himself. Ignore the great aunt and the other flying monkeys. In ta 1,200 guests? Cut that in half and maybe they wouldn't have to leech off your family. But also they have no right ask for money and your dad has no right to take money from your account without your approval.